All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless Dave here talking about real music in real time for real people just like you and just like me. Shout out to one of my patrons, Tim, who is a loyal follower of the channel, who is also my Styx statistician. Easy for me to say, right? He alerted me that the Styx album Crash of the Crown spent 1 week on the Billboard charts and then fell off the charts, which, again, in defense of Styx and their album, I would say that most bands in their category, meaning they're an older legacy rock band, they're not going to do, you're not going to do well unless your name is like, you know, AC/DC, Ozzy Osbourne. There's only a handful of bands that could achieve any sort of success with a new album, especially on Billboard. So saying that, but also noting that there's a bit of plagiarism on the record. There are moments that I think it's like a Pink Floyd album where it doesn't really sound like Styx. There are people online, on YouTube, different platforms, comparing it to like Pieces of Eight, Grand Illusion. I'm like, no. This is look, the pomp and circumstance Dennis brought to this thing is unique. And it's, again, playing off Tommy Shaw's strengths. I'm not even going to mention JY, but in any event, I wanted to just quickly address the Crash of the Crown issue. But this video is more about how I really figured out the riddle. I figured out why Styx doesn't want Dennis DeYoung in this band. I've touched on it before, but not in the way that I'm going to today. So if you remember the story, and again, I'm all alone out here telling this story. I think Dennis tells it. Look, Dennis, by the way, if you ever want to do that interview, you know, I know I've reached out to your guys, still waiting. Don't know what's going to happen there. Probably nothing. So I have been a fairly big defender of Dennis DeYoung, his career, his legacy. But anyway, let me move on to my thesis here, okay? So in the late 90s, Styx decides to boot Dennis DeYoung. After a very profitable and successful tour where it appeared the band was getting along great, Dennis gets this virus. Sounds familiar, right? And then after he kind of recovers from this virus, he's got light sensitivity problems. I don't know. I think he might even be colorblind. I'd have to ask him because I forget about that. In any event, Styx is trying to negotiate with Dennis. Hey, we want to go out on tour. He's like, not yet. I'm not ready. Not yet. So we're in the 90s. And at this point, older bands cannot sell albums. All right. We're in the post-grunge era. You still have lingering grunge bands that are trying to hold on. And then you've got these post-grunge bands that might actually be worse than grunge. And we still have them today. And this is my own opinion. Again, music is subjective, and I'll leave that to you all to figure out. But in my opinion, grunge was bad, but then what came later, I think, is even worse and continues to be horrible. There are a few exceptions out there, but the charts are mostly dominated by this type of music. Even now, the music industry never recovered from what grunge did to it. So at the end of the 90s, these guys are thinking, we got to make money. How do we make money? Well, we tour. So that narrative where they said Dennis doesn't like to tour is incorrect. Dennis will tour. The proper narrative should have been Dennis doesn't tour enough for us. He doesn't want to go out and do 150 dates a year. He's content with doing maybe 100, and that's not going to cut it. And I'm thinking to myself, 100 dates, and you're getting crazy ticket prices, 150, 200 bucks for crappy seats sometimes. You get under the pavilion and you're spending like 75. You're out on the lawn and you're still spending like 40 or some stupid amount. All right. These guys should be making lots of money. Plus, you've got the souvenirs, you've got all of the gear that they sell at these events. You've got increased prices on concessions, which I think pretty much all go to the venue. But I don't know how that all works. All I know is that everything costs a lot of money. So you're thinking, hey, this is the only way, if we're Styx, this is the only way we can make money. We need a workhorse. Well, enter Lawrence Gowan, right? Bye-bye, Dennis DeYoung. This is why they would fight to keep Dennis out of the band, because from a financial standpoint, they're going to do better without Dennis DeYoung. That's crazy, right? But you could also argue that they probably would have sold a lot more tickets if Dennis were in the band. But they had to do two things. They had to make Dennis look like this old, washed up balladeer, which I think they were somewhat successful in doing. They also had to make it clear to Styx fans that, hey, Dennis just wasn't a team player. He didn't want to tour. We wanted to get out and work. Okay. Similar situation with Journey, Steve Perry. But the thing is, with Perry, I don't think Perry had any intentions of wanting to come back. Imagine if Steve Perry said, oh, I'll do 100 dates a year. People would, Journey would, okay. They would, because they know they would sell out every concert and there would be excitement, and they might even actually sell albums, right? Imagine if Dennis came back with Styx, maybe Crash of the Crown, whatever it would have been called, wouldn't have fallen off the charts so quickly, because it would have a reunited, unified lineup. So you might make some money there. Again, you're not going to make that much money on the record. You're just not going to do it today. But you would sell out those 100 dates. Styx back together again with Dennis DeYoung. But again, their theory is that, well, maybe in 2021, Dennis won't want to tour, right? And if we skip a year, we're screwed. We need to be out there every year, 150 dates. We need pedal to the metal. You know, after what happened last year, these guys are thinking, oh no, even more so, we can't have a guy like Dennis. He's getting old, even though he still sings really well. But again, my whole conclusion here is that this is all about money. Styx probably calculated that they can do 150 dates a year without a break every single year. And I think that's kind of what they've done. Remember, they were on tour with like REO and 38 Special and Don Felder and all that stuff. They had all these different tours year after year, the Summer of Rock, whatever. They even branded everything really well, and they were very busy. And apparently they don't mind living out of a suitcase, whereas Dennis DeYoung would do that, has done that for many years, but he doesn't do as many dates. So it's all about the money, because how much money do you really need? If you're telling me that you can't make a really good living doing 100 dates a year, then you probably have some kind of financial addiction, all right? You have some kind of problem where you can't get your own personal spending under control. And that's my thesis, okay? This isn't just about Dennis and his personality. They know Dennis is talented. Even JY has said, yeah, he's really smart. I think he called him like a tortured genius or something like that recently. And I'm thinking, no, he is tortured. He's tortured by you guys. He's not tortured by anything he's doing to himself. He's a well-adjusted, married man, children, nice house in the burbs, seems to be fairly quirky and interesting and thoughtful when he opens his mouth. So I don't know. I think the JY conclusion, you know, obviously is, again, part of the narrative to set up. So Styx fans will go, yeah, too bad about Dennis DeYoung, huh? Too bad how he doesn't want to tour. Too bad that he's a malcontent. Too bad that he's just a balladeer. And they succeeded. They succeeded doing that, which is sad because it's not true. Dennis wants to tour, but not as much as Styx wants to tour. And it's all about money. And they figured, not only do we get rid of this personality, but we get to tour more and make more money. That is if you sell all the tickets. Some fans are going to be like, oh, well, no Dennis, no ticket buying. And you know what Styx does? They acquiesce a little bit. They say, okay, we'll do Mr. Roboto. Who knows? Maybe someday they will do Babe. Imagine Babe with Lawrence Gowan singing. I don't think they'll ever do that. They may work in like the Best of Times or something, and it wouldn't shock me at all because it's such an important song in their repertoire, but they just continue to ignore the songs that many Styx fans want to hear. The Styx fans are capable of liking the rockers and the ballads. Dennis DeYoung the other day was talking about Boat on a River. All right. And that's a song that's not exactly a barnstormer. Okay. But yet in certain places around the world, that song is very, very popular. And that was a collaboration between Dennis and Tommy, and it worked really, really well. It's not my favorite Styx song, but it just shows you that you don't have to, bang your head against the wall to make people think you're a cool rock band, So anyway, I figured I'd kind of put the icing on the cake because I don't think I have a better thesis than what I just came up with. And think of how many years Dennis has been out of this group. It's like 23 years, something like that, 22 years. And for 22 years, minus obviously last year and a portion of this year, that band has been out on the road doing 150 dates or a ton of dates. I don't know how many each year. You'd have to go back and look through it. But what they're calculating is we can get way more done without Dennis, and we can make more money. And then we don't have to put up with his leadership or his quirky behavior or anything that we don't like about him. We eliminate that and we make more money. So that's it. That's the conclusion. And if you want to comment, go over to Patreon, sign up. It's $1 a month, and we can have a conversation about this. I really think I'm right about this. And if I'm not, then I still think my theory makes sense. If I'm not right, if that's not the only reason, again, I'm always wondering if I were to have Dennis on this program, I would say, so what's the personality conflict? That would be one of my first questions. If we're talking Styx and Tommy and Dennis, I would say, so what is it about you that makes Tommy upset? Because when he was on with Dan Rather, he said, I just want to be happy. I think Styx just wants to be wealthy.